Welcome to this online lecture for Western Civ 2. Today we are going to conclude our path to World War I. As always, there are some key terms that you should keep track of as watching this video. I forgot to put them on this screen, so I will try to highlight them for you as we go through the lecture. So anyway, let's get to it. So what have we discussed so far? On the one side were the liberal democracies of Britain and France. On the other were the conservative monarchies of Russia, Germany, and Austria-Hungary. We've also discussed how powerful a force nationalism was becoming in Europe by 1900. Nationalism could be a positive force. For example, nationalism led to the unification of Italy. It also led to the unification of Germany. But it also could be a force for division as well. Austria-Hungary, for example, was made up of a dozen different cultures that each wanted its own independent country. Nationalism in Austria-Hungary, therefore, was driving the country apart. One example of how destructive a force nationalism could be came in the little state of Bosnia. Bosnia had been recently annexed or taken over by Austria-Hungary. This angered Serbia. Many Serbs lived in Bosnia. Nationalism declared that people who shared a common language and culture should also share a common government as well. Therefore, Serbia ultimately wanted all of Bosnia to become a part of their nation. Which leads us to this guy, Gavrilo Princip. You should know Gavrilo Princip. He was a Serbian nationalist. Just 19 years old, he was a member of a terrorist group known as the Black Hand. Their mission was to create havoc and commit acts of violence in the cause of uniting all Serbs under one nation. That included the murder of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand when he came to Sarajevo on a visit in June of 1914. Princip was actually just one of several assassins that attempted to kill the heir to the Austrian throne. One threw a bomb at the Archduke's car. It exploded, injuring passengers in the car behind Franz Ferdinand. Other assassins got cold feet and failed to carry out their orders. Princip, however, when presented with the opportunity, coldly pumped a series of bullets into the head and neck of Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. Here is a photograph of Princip shortly after he was apprehended by the police in Sarajevo. This still begs the question, however, why did this incident lead to war? Well, in August of 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia to punish it for what it believed was its role in the Archduke's assassination. Now, everything should have ended here with a small regional conflict. Instead, this leads to a general world war. Why? One problem we need to understand is the rivalries that had sprung up over the past centuries between various national groups. These rivalries created deep suspicions and even hatred among some of the great powers. Probably the greatest rivalry was that of France versus Germany. This rivalry had deep roots that dated back to the 30 Years' War of the 17th century. More recently, that rivalry had erupted into a war in 1870. This was known as the Franco-Prussian War. The Germans won that war, seizing territory from France. The French swore that they would get that land back. Another rivalry was that of Russia versus Austria-Hungary. Russia was an ally of Serbia and resented Austria's efforts to bully the smaller nation. To keep these rivalries under control, a series of alliances had been created to try and prevent war. The idea was to keep the great powers of Europe balanced. By 1914, this balance of power had led to the creation of two great alliances. Now, you should understand what the concept of balance of power means, so make sure you take that down. The first of the alliances that you should be able to keep track of was known as the Triple Alliance. The Triple Alliance consisted of Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. Now, Germany and Austria-Hungary made sense. Both were conservative monarchies. Both were also largely German-speaking powers. Italy made less sense, however. Austria and Italy had long been enemies. Austria even controlled territory claimed by Italy. To counter the Triple Alliance, the Triple Entente was negotiated. You should also know the Triple Entente. It consisted of Great Britain, France, and Russia. Great Britain and France made sense as allies. They were both liberal democracies. Russia made less sense, however. It was the most conservative nation in Europe in 1914. The problem is that these alliances, this balance of power, actually contributed to war, as each ally promised to go to war to protect their friends. Thus, a single spark could set the entire system ablaze. And this is what happens. In August of 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia in retaliation for the murder of Franz Ferdinand. Russia decided to come to the aid of its ally Serbia by declaring war on Austria. Germany defended its ally Austria by declaring war on Russia. However, because Germany knew of Russia's alliance with France, it also declared war on the French as well. Britain initially remained out of the trouble. However, within a few days of Germany's declaration of war against France and Russia, Britain also joined the fighting by declaring war on Germany and Austria-Hungary. Thus, by August 4th, 1914, all of the great powers of Europe were at war. Now, once again, once begun, this war will be almost impossible to stop, and it will transform Western civilization forever.